Hi, this is Ushio, and this is a new camera. Hopefully the new camera is working. I won't find out until I finish this recording, in which case I've got a backup camera here, backup camera, new camera, and hopefully I can spread out a little bit more. And please ignore my shelves. I haven't finished rearranging and it's a mess. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Apocalypse Zero. And if you haven't heard of this one, I don't blame you. And if you have heard of this one, you're probably a terrible person just like me. So I don't recommend this manga. Straight up, I'm just going to say I don't recommend this manga. I personally quite enjoy it. It is extreme, and I had quite a lot of doubts in my mind. Should I even cover a manga like this? And I thought, what kind of film critic refuses to review like the more extreme horror movies? So you don't refuse to review Human Centipede, for example, if you're gonna like be taken seriously as a critic, or like just look at stuff that's a little bit more extreme and a little bit more alienating to most audiences. So yeah, if I had like a top 10 extreme manga, Berserk, maybe number 10. Way towards the bottom, maybe not even on it. Dorohedoro, maybe about number 7-ish. This is going to be top 3. This is really out there. I can't emphasize this enough, how extreme, kind of messed up this manga is. And it's going out of its way to be extreme. And that's part of its appeal. I like it. So consider that your warning. This is extreme stuff and you don't want to mess with it if you're really not interested. Even if you like horror stuff, even then it's extremely ugly throughout. Anyway, let's get to the story. Basically, there's a guy called Kagako, and he's the new transfer student in school. And that's the plot, really. But this is a wasteland. This is a complete apocalypse. Nothing is left standing, everything is destroyed, but school's still got to happen, kids still got to go to school, apparently. There don't seem to be any parents around, there's like 2 adults, I got the principal and 1 teacher, and all the students just go to school, stepping over like carcasses, ignoring the giant cockroaches that are eating random corpses. It's a big old mess. Everything in this manga is done to be as extreme and over the top and gross out as possible. And I keep emphasizing this, but it is the truth. So in the first couple of pages, here's your example. If this is not safe for work, keep away and click off now if you're at work. So in the first couple of pages, a pregnant woman gets destroyed by being crushed and her intestines explode through her mouth. And it's so over the top and it's so extreme. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So you got Kagako, our hero. He's kind of like very uptight, very serious, and it's not often you get a main character with like glasses. It's kind of unusual. By the way, I've got a bunch of these. Hang on, before I get too distracted, I didn't give a basic overview. There are 6 volumes that have been translated into English. There are 11 in Japan. It was incomplete, so you can only get half the series in English. So okay, let's carry on. Let's get to volume 2. So our hero is just transferred into this new school. He has to like deal with the schoolyard bully. There's the girl next door, literally, and she instantly has a liking for him. He instantly like has a liking for her, but he's like a stoic sort. He will never act on that in the early stages of the story. But there are monsters everywhere, and all these monsters are being controlled by our hero's brother, who's in some big castle up on high, and he's just sending down monsters every now and then. And these monsters are really, really extreme. They don't really relate to like what humans are. They're kind of grotesque. I'm trying to be careful. I don't want to be too explicit when I discuss certain things, but basically everybody seems to be wearing very little bondage wear and not a lot else. These are the kinds of bad guys you see very early on. It kind of develops later, but for the initial shock factor, you got a lot of people with a lot of studded leather, with a lot of flesh being exposed, all the genders, all the everything. You get to see everything. Most of the sexual elements you'll see are kind of weaponized, so you get like demon, oh man, how am I supposed to say this stuff? Okay, you get like demon penises, and you get like, you know, attacking boobs and stuff like this. And it's so over the top, and it's so extreme, and it's so stupid. And it's done in such a freakish, gross out way. I mean, there isn't a single element of this that isn't kind of gonna upset someone. So our hero, he has like this like mechanized armor thing, but it's not just armor, it's armor that's got 3,000 tortured souls from World War II that his grandfather made and shoved into this armor. And to like be accepted by the armor, Kagako has to like sacrifice himself to a point and endure their suffering so they can like work together and fight other bad guys. And then you get flashbacks on how they use their armor and their father puts them through extreme training. We're not talking about like just some sit-ups, we're talking about they're actually firing ball bearings into their flesh that they then fuse into themselves and transform into metallic beings. And it's such... what? Just what? It's the kind of manga you take 1 or 2 panels from, show to people on Twitter just to get some retweets, and people are like, what on earth is this? It's like this, but I haven't got the courage to show any of this inside stuff because it's such a mess. Okay, but as it goes along, it kind of simmers down into like a series of bad guys that they just want to fight, and it's kind of sad that the first initial volumes that are so offensive and so ridiculously out there, it kind of just simmers down into like, oh, what's the bad guy? Let's fight that. It does depend on the bad guy. So if the design of the monster is really interesting or really messed up, it's a lot more engaging than just some regular bad guy. We like the extreme because otherwise, if it's not shocking, the manga hasn't got any value. The story is completely stereotyped, and that is done deliberately. But the author did also make Shiguri, and I haven't read this because it's untranslated, but I have watched the anime, and basically it's about a lot of really awful people in a really awful oppressive system and how they flourish within that and kind of do each other genuine harm, and it's extremely toxic and fascinating to watch, and it's a complete mess. But I think it's amazing. I think it's really good, and this is like really serious stuff. Apocalypse Zero is very much like tongue-in-cheek. It's really out there, and if you're super familiar and happy to be super cynical about the tropes that are out there, you can kind of like enjoy it as a bit of a... it's not even a guilty pleasure. It is trash, but it's deliberate trash. It wants to roll around in that trash, and everything's extreme. I've said this before, but you can't just have a little cut. You have to have a cut, and then it just like intestines just fly out of you. It doesn't really matter where you get cut. People will getting ripped apart, and there's not even any blood. It just looks like spaghetti, you know? Like there's one guy, he wants to keep fighting, so he deliberately regurgitates his own intestines, bites them off, so he can then keep functioning to like pursue the fight. It's so weird. But honestly, it's just one big offensive thing, and if you're down for that, you're gonna have a lot of laughs out of it. I don't think you can take it too seriously. I personally think it's a bit of a wind-up, it's a bit of a satire and a bit of a shitpost of a manga. And I value this. This is my kind of thing. But honestly, 99% of the people watching this video don't even consider it, don't even think about it. There is an anime out there, and it's actually not very good, which is kind of sad. But this is... oh man, that's kind of Apocalypse Zero, really. It's kind of like deliberately gross, deliberately extreme. And it's just something you'd pass around your juvenile friends and be like, oh my god, look at this is wild, and just have a bit of a laugh. The artwork's deliberately kind of like naff. It's kind of kitsch. It was written in the 90s, but the style's of the 80s. It's just a big old wind-up. It's a big old mess, and it's just a bit of a joke that not a lot of people, I don't think, would appreciate fully. But if you want to be grossed out or spit your tea out every time you turn a page and see something extremely weird, then you might get some enjoyment out of this. It's a guilty pleasure for me, and it's something I would not openly admit publicly to recommend to anybody. Definitely not. It's very much an acquired taste, and I'm a nasty person, so obviously I like this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's Apocalypse Zero. Please don't buy this manga, and this is Osho signing off, and hopefully I will see you next time.